Tattoos, one of the oldest known forms of art. The earliest examples were actually found on Otzi the Iceman, dating back almost 6,000 years. People use them to represent everything, from the oldest of traditions to pure and utter silliness. As beautiful and important as they can be, that's not always the case, and circumstances sometimes require them to be removed. The modern laser removal process is surprisingly cool and complex. But before we get to that, it's important to understand what makes tattoos permanent in the first place. Human beings replace all of their skin roughly every 30 days. So if the ink is only applied on the surface, that's about the longest it'll last. This is the concept behind henna tattoos. To get around this, the ink needs to be deposited into the dermis layer of the skin. Contrary to what you may think, it's not actually injected. The tattoo needles are covered in ink. Think paintbrush. And as they poke all the tiny holes in the skin down to the dermis, capillary action actually draws the ink down into the skin versus the ink being injected. With this placement, the ink is now substantially more permanent. However, just like any time you break the skin, your body's immune response is triggered. One part of this response is for the breach to be flooded with special white blood cells called macrophages. Think of them as big burly bouncers crossed with Pac-Man, because instead of throwing out unruly customers, they eat them. This process is called phagocytosis. They basically extrude themselves and engulf the foreign objects. This is why tattoos are permanent, but also why tattoos fade. You can see the difference here between a brand new tattoo and a tattoo from 30 years ago. The ink particles are just too big for the white blood cells to eat in one bite, so they slowly eat away at them, hence the fading. It's like a mouse trying to eat a house-sized wheel of cheese. Given enough time, the mouse will make a valiant effort, but could never eat the whole thing. Even a team of mice have no chance. Now we come to the removal process. This is where lasers come into play.
We're popping popcorn with lasers.
To put it simply, they break the ink particles up into smaller, bite-sized pieces, which our metaphorical mice have a much easier time with. But how is this accomplished with lasers, you ask? Science, that's how. Currently, the most widely used are ultra-short pulse lasers. They are unlike your typical laser pointer, which is a continuous beam of light. They pulse at a picosecond rate. That's a trillionth of a second. Using a precisely calibrated laser, different color inks require a different wavelength of light. One side of the ink particle is heated exponentially, approaching 300 degrees Celsius. The extreme temperature differential between the two sides of the ink particle cause the ink particle to shatter into a bunch of tiny pieces, facilitating your body's ability to process it and then dispose of it through your liver. This is done so quickly that only the ink particles are affected, leaving the surrounding tissue unharmed. This principle is called selective photothermolysis. The size, the age, and the color of the tattoo are the major determining factors for how many treatments will be required. The older and darker the tattoo, the easier it is to remove. Older, because the body's already started to eat away at it, and darker, because darker colors absorb more wavelengths of light. This process does have one minor short-term side effect. It's called frosting. It's the discoloration that you can see right after the laser pulse. As the ink particles shatter, CO2 is released, and it sends a kind of shockwave through the cellular membrane. Thankfully, it isn't harmful and dissipates very quickly. In the past, the risk for scarring, infection, and other complication was much higher, but recent advancements have greatly reduced the overall risk. Granted, you allow enough time for the skin to heal properly. If you get a really bad sunburn, and then immediately go back out into the sun the next day, you're probably gonna scar. Same concept. With rare exception, even the most modern and vibrant tattoos can be removed with very little risk, granting some a fresh start and others a fresh canvas. The reason for the tattoo removal is irrelevant, but the science is really cool. The wonder is out there. We just have to be looking for it.